Ladies and gentlemen, General Dennis Schulstad.
Gosh, the introduction was longer than the speech. Just a great honor to be here today. I have heard so much about St. Thomas, and some of my very best friends have graduated from St. Thomas. I understand you have a football team also, is that true? And a few runners here in the school too, how about that? I always enjoy events like this because it gives me an excuse to put my uniform back on, though the cleaners keep shrinking it every year. It gets a little tougher every year. But you notice that Colonel Dean didn't have any trouble at all with his uniform. I just returned from the Air Force Academy. I was in some meetings out there with some former generals and with the current Chief of Staff and the top leadership of the Air Force. They always had that meeting when Air Force is playing either Army or Navy in football. It dramatically increases the attendance at the meeting. And Air Force played Army on that field that day, and it was a hard-fought game. They work and work and work on that field of competition. They would do anything to win that game. And as soon as the game was over, all of the Army players and all of the Air Force players walked over to the Army fans, and they sang the Army song, the Army hymn. And then all of the players walked over to the Air Force side, because Air Force won the game, so they do that last. And they all sing the Air Force hymn. And the same thing happens when we play either Navy, Army, or Air Force. Because they know on the field that day, they will do anything to win that game. But they know when they graduate, they will be brothers, they will be family, fighting together for our nation. Something very special. I saw a lot of tears shed that day. There were several of those people on that field who we know will go into combat and will not return home. And these are the very best and brightest people in our nation. When we talk about our nation, just think about how fortunate we are to live in America. We were born here. I often mention to people that if you have ever purchased a lottery ticket, you don't ever have to buy one again, because you have already won the lottery by being an American citizen. People all around the world would give anything to be able to move into this nation and live here with the freedoms that we enjoy. I know when you're a young student, you don't always realize what these are and how important they are. But when you graduate from here, you will have the opportunity to live wherever you live. If you want to move to Texas, you can move to Texas. To California, you can stay right here. You can't do that in a lot of other countries. If you choose to be an engineer, you're able to do that. If you choose to be a police officer, it's all right. If you choose to be a military person, that's all right. It's your choice. You have the opportunity to choose what you're going to do. You have the opportunity to worship on Sunday in a Jewish synagogue, in a Catholic church, in a Lutheran church, or if you choose, you don't have to worship at all. And nobody is going to tell you what you have to do, because you live in America. And if you wish to, you can write a letter to the paper that's critical of our elected officials, of our president, and you don't have to worry at all about somebody breaking your door down in the middle of the night and hauling you away for doing that, because you live in America. But these rights weren't just given to us. These rights have been fought for over the years. I think of my friend who was born in Germany. When Hitler was coming to power, his dad was smart enough to move them out of Germany, and somehow they were able to come to the United States. They came over here with nothing. All of his family members, every single one of them that stayed behind in Germany, was killed. Every single one of them. This person became a successful businessman in Minnesota, and he became a United States Senator. That's Rudy Boschwitz. I think of another man, a very dear friend of mine, who just passed away last year. He was born in China. His family was quite wealthy. When he was 8 years old, he was kidnapped and held for ransom. His family had enough money, so they were able to pay nearly $1 million to ransom him and have him released. Then the communists took over China, and his family lost everything. The government took everything they had. He then moved to the United States, and he said that was the most fortunate thing that has ever happened to him. And he also became a very successful businessman. His name is Gene Sitt. He has 4 boys and a daughter. They have all served in the military. And he said, I love this country so much, and I love what the military has made possible for me, that when we started an organization called the Minnesota Military Appreciation Fund, where we give money and letters of appreciation to those people who have served in a combat area after 9/11, he donated $1 million. That was Gene Sitt. He owns Sitt Investment Company in the IDS Tower in downtown Minneapolis. I look at these veterans. You are the reason that we have all of these freedoms today. We're a peace-loving country. We're less than 250 years old. And it's really kind of an experiment in democracy. There are very few nations around the world that have a democracy like ours. And normally they don't last very long. And ours has only been around less than 250 years. We're peace-loving, and we would like not to have any wars. But occasionally, we have to fight for those freedoms. And in those less than 250 years, we have had, depending on how you count them, we have had approximately 12 wars. And in those 12 wars, we have had millions of our young men and women who have gone off to fight. And 1.2 million of those people have died.